Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep. In this UPSC simplified series, we are taking one more geography mains question. So here is question on your screen. Bring out the causes for more frequent landslides in the Himalayas than in Western Ghats. Now this is a repetitive theme. Maybe 3-4 times this particular question has been asked. If you want to relate this particular question with that of syllabus, you can relate it with geophysical phenomena. And there is a list of geophysical phenomena you are expected to be thorough with. Now, in this particular question, let us identify locus of the question. Locus is nothing but landslide, or say the process of landslide. And when it comes to focus, I have to focus on the frequency of landslide, or why there is more landslide in Himalayan region, right, as compared to Western Ghats. Now, typically, if you read this particular question, this is nothing but a comparison style question or comparison based question you can find. Okay, so we have understood what exactly has been asked or what is the nature of this question. Let us start with introduction. Now, again, introduction can be definition based or fact based. If you are giving a definition based introduction, just define what these landslides are. If you are giving fact based introduction, give some fact based on the landslide hazard in Himalaya. Now there can be multiple facts. Just have some facts. In the landslide hazard map is there, national landslide hazard map, or atlas it is called as, and in that atlas you will find that Himalayas are categorized as very high landslide hazard zone. Fine. So this can be your typical fact to start with, or you can also start with some recent example. You see, recently so and so landslide has happened in the regions of Himalaya and its result were devastating. That can also be your way to start. I will personally prefer to go for a fact-based introduction and will quote some fact from the landslide atlas. Why I am not choosing for definition-based approach? Simple reason: landslide is a very basic thing, and your definition in this particular case is not addressing something fancy or something new. So novelty quotient, if you go for your introduction, is very low. Very generic introduction is going to be in this particular case. So that is why I'll go for a fact-based introduction, right? And I also told you from where I'm going to collect this particular fact. Now, having introduced this, I'll move on to the body part. Now, I'm not going to apply any brains in body part. Fine. Simply what I'll do, I'll make a table. Let's make a table. And in this particular table, I will have a parameter here. Fine. And I will say why more landslides in Himalayas. Okay. So have a parameter and just state why there is more landslide in Himalaya as compared to Western Ghat. This is one way I can do. Another way, make two columns, say Himalayas here and Western Ghat here. But question is not asking you to compare the landslide hazard in Himalayas and in Western Ghats. And that is why I will refrain from making 3 columns. I'll just stick to 2 columns. Here I will write parameter, and for each parameter I'll explain why there is more landslide in the regions of Himalaya and not in Western Ghats. Fine. So what are the parameters which I have chosen? Let's go to parameters one by one. Now I have categorized. In this particular question, most of the candidates will have a vague answer or an unstructured answer. So that is a bigger probability or bigger possibility. And to avoid that, what I have done, I've just made some categories. Look at the categories. I'll go for first geological reason. Then I will go for topographic reason. Then I will go for climatic reasons, vegetation, and anthropogenic activity. So these are my categories. Now, if I talk about geological reasons, first and foremost, I'll talk about rocks. If I talk about the rocks which are found in Himalayas, those are sedimentary rocks. In Western Ghats, I have igneous rocks such as basalt. So igneous rocks are tough, they are strong, and then they are less prone to any breakage. When it comes to the Himalayan regions, the rock is sedimentary, or in some parts you can have sedimentary rock or some unconsolidated surface. Unconsolidated in a way, there is no proper formation of rock. So whatever sediment is there, sediment has deposited one over another, and that sediment is loose. Same is not the case in the regions of Western Ghats, right? That is my first difference in geological terms. Next difference is tectonic activity. In the regions of Himalaya, there is a high level of tectonic activity. A lot of earthquake will take place because plates are rubbing against each other in that particular part. You also have a lot of fault zones, active fault zones. Now this is, I am typically making it more and more technical. You need not be writing so technical. You can simply say that this is earthquake zone or high tectonically unstable zone. That is something you need to add here. That would be fine. So that is my geological aspect. Let's talk about topographic aspect. Now when it comes to topographic aspect, Himalayas have steep slopes on both of these sides. Now when you compare it to the Western Ghats have a cliff on the western margin, but there is no slope in the eastern margin. So whatever landslides we find in Western Ghats, they are mostly in the western part. So limited area is there, or limited scope is there. There will be landslide on the western margins or western face, but eastern face is very, very safe. When it comes to Himalayas, both any face, it can be like north, south, east, west, both of the faces or all of the faces have a steep slope and prone to high landslide. Next is about climate. Now when it comes to the climate, first talk about rainfall. Now in Western Ghats, we have a high amount of rainfall, but in the regions of Western Ghats, what we find that there is a consistent amount of rainfall. In Himalayas, there is a abrupt rise of winds or abrupt rise of air, and as an abrupt rise of air, what we find that the rainfall which occurs in the regions of Himalaya, more often it results into cloudburst, and these cloudbursts create havoc and a lot of landslide in the regions of Himalaya, right? So not as many cloudbursts are reported in the Western Ghats as compared to Himalaya. So this is one important reason which I am taking from climate of the both of the regions. Let's go for temperature. Temperature changes. Diurnal range of temperature is very high in the regions of Himalaya, or seasonal or annual range of temperature is very high. So temperature will go on a lower side and then it will go on a higher side, and that particular phenomena, or there will be frozen conditions also. And when water freezes in the crevices of rocks, it results into breakage of rocks. It weakens the rock. It will result into landslides and rock falls. Fine. So that is something which is typically happening in the regions of Himalaya, but not in Western Ghats. Let's talk about vegetative cover. In vegetative cover, we need to address one important fact, that Western Ghats have dense forest. And if there is a good vegetative cover, it will protect the land from any movement. There will be like stronghold of roots and it will hold that landscape very well. When it comes to Himalaya's southern face have a good vegetative cover, but it is not as dense as compared to the Western Ghats. If I go for northern slopes of the Himalayas, they have a very rare vegetative cover, and since there is no vegetative cover, the soil there is very loose, unconsolidated, and prone to landslide. Next, go for anthropogenic activity. Let's talk about tourism. The development of tourism is very, very high in Himalayan region, and hence there is a lot of anthropogenic activity. There is a lot of built up area on the river banks, on the slopes. There is a lot of construction of public infrastructure, and this has resulted into destabilization of slope. Same level of activity we do not find in Western Ghats. So there is anthropogenic activity in Western Ghat, no doubt about it. But if you look at the intensity is far less. It's very, very high in the regions of Himalaya, and that is why these particular regions have become unstable. So in this comparison table, I have provided all the aspects, all the factors, and I have addressed why there is more landslide frequency in the regions of Himalayas as compared to Western Ghats. So that is how I am going to end my body part. I will necessarily draw a map. I will show which are the regions where we have frequency of landslide or high frequency of landslides in India. If you are able to recollect any data from the atlas or the hazard map of India, that would be appreciated. But even if you are not able to recall, it will be fine to show it on a map and say that these are the landslide prone zones in India. Fine. Now in way forward, I'll talk about some mitigation, some preparedness. So that is a way forward type of conclusion you can give. That will be a very good conclusion. You can talk about early warning systems or some geotechnology, so on and so forth. There can be like a lot of things you can write in conclusion. Fine. So there we end with this question on landslide. So see you again in next session.